Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here and share some of our research with you, as well as some of the research of others. And I'm going to just start off to give a quick overview of kratom use in Southeast Asia, although Dr. Singh will go into this in much more detail. But this comes from a tree that's used by field workers in Malaysia, also in Thailand, to relieve pain as a stimulant to improve their work capacities and to reduce opioid withdrawal, which will focus most of my comments around. In Thailand, the leaves are chewed, so very similar to how coca leaf is used in South America. And most raw kratom materials in the United States are actually coming from Indonesia. The predominant active ingredient is mitragynine or mitragynine. It's a coinant alkaloid that is comprising about 66% of the total alkaloid content of the plant material. There are several alkaloids that have been isolated and reported on. Our lab has done some of the most extensive screening on these alkaloids for pharmacological activity. And what we've learned from that is kratom actually has multiple pharmacologies associated with it, not just opioid, which many people have attributed to, but it has surprisingly strong activities from serotonergic systems as well as adrenergic systems. And all three of these systems are involved in pain transmission. And so it's understandable why this is a popular remedy traditionally for pain, but also they cause stimulant-like activities, and it's also being used in that capacity. So these are just some of the alkaloids. I won't go into them in detail other than to show you that they look very similar because the plant biosynthesizes all of these in a similar format. The plant actually, we believe, uses these alkaloids to protect itself from fungal infection. We think these have antifungal activity, and the plants grow in very wet environments and sometimes can be in standing water. This is the receptor pharmacology of many of the major alkaloids that have been isolated from the plant or are actually metabolites that are known to be active. 7-hydroxymitragynine, 9-hydroxychloranthanine, and 7-hydroxypananthine at the bottom are all active metabolites. Mitragynine, pananthine, speciosialacine, chloranthanine, corinoxine, speciogynin, corinoxine B, ashmalacine, and isospeciopholin are all isolated natural products from the plant itself. And what we did was screen each of these at a very high concentration, which is what you see in black on the right. All of those high concentrations hit multiple targets within the central nervous system. As we decrease that concentration, you can see that we hone in on mostly opioid receptors, serotonin receptors, and adrenergic receptors, which are the primary drivers of the complex pharmacology of the plant. For therapeutic use, we've been focusing on opioid detoxification for actually replacing several medications at once, or a medication-assisted therapy, very similar to how buprenorphine is used. We do know that kratom withdrawal is mild, and that will be addressed as well during this panel. The lack of real standardized products has delayed clinical trials to really evaluate these claims in the US. However, what we've done in animals and preclinical settings is looked at nociception, so pain, and where we're looking at these animals and treating them with either morphine, which you can see in red or green, and lyophilized kratom tea. So we make a kratom tea just like it's made in Malaysia, and then we freeze dry that and feed that back to the animals. And what you can see is it's much less potent than morphine in its overall analgesic effects, but it reaches sort of a ceiling around 1 milligram per kilogram up to 1 gram per kilogram up to 4 grams per kilogram with about equal efficacy. We also know that the tea in its analgesic effects last for quite a long time, just about over an hour, with a typical dose that was fed back towards what human dose would be. It also lacks a condition place preference. This, in short, is a drug-seeking behavior. So animals do not seek to find this, to take it. It also reduces precipitated withdrawal with naloxone quite drastically when it's compared to morphine, the traditional opioid. And then last thing I wanted to show you was more recent data where we actually see some excitement around mitigation of methamphetamine self-administration without affecting food intake. This is very promising and aligns well with some of the data coming out of Malaysia showing that kratom is actually reducing methamphetamine intake. So that's all I have.